Hello friends, this is Kalpesh Satasya. Today we are going to learn about CRUD operation in .NET Core 6 Web API with Swagger. We can going to be learn step by step how we can achieve the CRUD operation in .NET Core. So let's move to the example and we can see one by one. Open Visual Studio and we're going to create a new project. We can type Web API and we can select the project template for creating ASP.NET Core application with an example controller for the RESTful HTTP services. Okay, so we need the controller, so we can click next and we can give this student API. Rest of them it's correct. Click next. We want .NET 6.0. We configure with the HTTPS and we can use the controller and enable the open APIs. So that means the Swagger is useful there. So click on create. Okay, so now project is create. Let's check in the solution explorer. What are the things are there? You see there's a controller. There is no view because we are creating web API, app setting, program.cs and weather forecast. So let's check the weather forecast. What is it? So this is the model weather forecast and there are the few properties. If you go to the controller, there is a weather forecast controller and here are the few parameters. There are the loggers and the logger is injected into the controller with the constructor, and we are interested on that actions. Here the HTTP get with the name get weather forecast, and the return type is enumerable weather forecast, and this method name is get, and here is written this enumerable of weather forecast. Here we can see there is only one method, so we don't need to give this route or something, but for the Swagger they want the name, so that's why we like application is given the default name here. And if we can see here on the attribute level, we can see the API control and the router, and with the controller in the square bracket, that means controller name is dynamically take that as a route. And we have the weather forecast controller and it inherit from the controller base. So if we run, it will be run directly on the Swagger. Let's see, check like in the launch setting. If you see, here's the profile student API. If you can go here, you can check that student API is a profile here, and there will be application launch in the run with the HTTPS. There's a port is 7215. So if we run it here, we can see it. We can run without debugging. So let's click and it's run without debugging. Okay, here is loaded and you see this URL, the Swagger, and Swagger is loaded, and now you can see this weather forecast. So let's check it. What is this? So here is the schema. They define that schema is output is something like that. Because why it's given the output, let's go to the application again and check in the weather forecast controller. Because of the output is the enumerable weather forecast model, so that's the reasons they have a list of objects here, and the object have the property as this. So let's try it now. We can try, and yeah, bingo, we got this result. That means everything is working fine. Now this is the default templates. Now we want to going to create a API for the student, and we can see the how we can achieve this CRUD operation. So let's do it quickly. On the controllers, we can right click, add controller. Okay, so here you can see that this is the IMVC controller, but we are creating only APIs, so we're much interested on the API controller. And there is a three options: API controller with the read write actions, and API controller with the action with the entity framework. But right now we are not thinking about the entity framework, so we left them, and we don't have any action at moment, so we can go with the empty controller. Now you can give this controller name, give student controller. Okay, so student controller, this is the blank. If you curious about why is the blue line is here, it's because the application is running and we have to be reload the application, or you can save it. So that means if I restart the application, then its blue line is most probably is gone. It hopefully is running properly, the hot reloading. Okay, yeah, you see now the compiler or might be the Visual Studio is not giving the blue line right now, right? Because this hot reloading, sometime we need to restart the applications, because if you add the new or something, that time we need to do that if it is hot reloading is not understood properly. Okay, so now if we go to the swagger level, there is nothing any changes, right? Because we don't have anything. So let's now we can go to add one model here. Right click and going to be add a new item, and we can add a class, and it's called a student class. So now in student class there is anything, the same thing like the application is not understanding. It's trying to say that you can hot reload or restart the application. So now we can add few properties. It's give the good intelligence, so we can utilize that. It's asking for the tab to accept, so we can go to tab. So that means then now we can create another. So let's give the name, okay, which is good. String we want, yes, that's good. They give the good intelligence, we can utilize. Okay, we can go with the age, go with there's a string, the name, and we can go with the city. Okay, so these are the 4 properties here. Now okay, so you see always rebuild when the update cannot be automatically applied. This checkbox will reset when the solution is closed. So we don't need to click boss, we just rebuild and apply the changes. So that means one kind of application is rebuild and apply just changes. So we can give this default value like string dot empty here. Okay, so now after that there is nothing any impact here because we haven't used this student model at moment. So there is nothing, you can see is auto loading is automatically applied, but still it is no any impact. So now go to the student controller and we can create a one methods like http get and the public we put the async and the task. Set the bracket, we can make it the ixn result and get students. Okay, and now we can see here we can just create a one variable where students, this new list of students. Okay, inside I can just have to be new student and just initialize it. Okay, id 1, name equal to Kalpesh. What is the age? Age is 4. City is Ahmedabad. Okay, here we go. But why still it is just giving this red? Okay, and now we gave this written as okay, because here we have give the asynchronous with the task and we pass as student. Okay, so now but we give this name of that API, or we can provide the route as attribute. So we make it the route. Okay, and route is like, if you see this API and controller, now we make that name is get done. So let's see that and check it. If the application is hot reload or not, we'll see that. Right here you see that now is the API is ready. So now click over here and still you can see we didn't have to be student object, or student object is not there on the Swagger. Why? Because of we haven't utilized the student object as an output parameter. So let's do that. Let's make it the action result. So rebuild the apply changes. You can see the lack of await operator because we use the async and there is no await operation, but anyway we can leave it. Okay, so now it's working. So let's see that now the output is something like this object. So now this student object is student class is now into the come to pictures because we have a written output as a student and we have written with this object the students. So list of students is now written. Now try to execute. So now bingo, we get this list of object here. So let me add the one more student here. I just copy this existing one and apply it here. We can change the IDs too, and here is 30. And city is something different, let's say Rajkot. So I saved it and let's check it's okay. You see it's refresh automatically, so that means our hot reloading is working fine and hopefully we get the proper results. Okay, good, we got the two objects. The one is the Kalpesh one and the second one is the achievement. Okay, so now let's create for the get request, because here we get all the students. Now we find the particular students. So let's move to this object into the like class, like controller level, root level, and we can apply it here. We can make it a private list of student. Okay, so okay, now it's fine. Okay, so here is fine. Now we can copy it, this paste, because we want to get request, and we make it remove the hash. Here's get student, but we want as a id, integer id. Now what we need to do it, we need to find it, where student equal to students dot find x of x dot id equal id. Okay, so now we can check that. We can check with the if condition, like if student is not null. If it is critical null, then we can return as a bad request. Okay, and we can pass the proper message like no record found or no student found. And if it is found, we can return a student. Okay, so we get these two methods. One is the students and one is the student get students. So we'll check that. First of all, we can check with the all students, and we can see how many records are there. We have two records with the id 1 and id 2. Now we check with the get student API. In get student API, click and we will see the output is something like that, expected, and the id is there. Let's try it. So if we like, if there is no exist record, we can try with the id 4 and we'll see that what happened. No student found. Okay, so that means this record is no, and the response code is 400, right? And if we do 1 and we can execute, here we go, we get the response is 200, and we get the object with that. So that means our get all and get request, get student is working fine. Now let's check with the other. Now we can just copy that and make it something HTTP post, the add student. So here we go to change to the add student, but in the add student we want a pass as a student object. So we do it student as object, and here we can make it the request as object, right? So let's check that. We don't need this. We can have a students as a object dot add, and we just have to be print as a add as a request or as a student object, and we reply as a student. Okay, here we good. That means we get this all this results here. Okay, so let's check with the add student. Okay, the post request and add student here. Okay, it's give this proper, like we want to something pass this value, so we can try it. Okay, here we get this two, the id is 0, name is string, name is 0. We can try with the default one first, and we'll see we response as a all this. Okay, so here's get, because we passed this default value and we got all the three objects, right? So that means this add is working. Now we can add another one with the proper id. Let me make it 3 instead of string, like I make it the chelpes, and the age is xyz, anything, like I will make it 25, and city is Ahmedabad. So now we can try it, execute, and we'll see the 4 rep. Something is wrong. Okay, got it. Why it is happening? Because we didn't make it the static. Okay, let's rebuild. Okay, now let's check on this. Here we can add a student. Now we can add the default one first. Add. Okay, now 3. Now we make it the proper result 3 and paste. Now we can execute. Now it must be a 4 object. Yes. Now 3 with the paste, 0 on the first one, and this 2 was okay. So now the add is also working. Now we can go for the okay. So we just copy this, the HTTP put. Okay, and then one questions I think you guys have, why we have not written this from body, right? From body. we if you want we can return, but right now we student have no any specific like complex object instead of string and integer. So that's the reason if we complex object we need to do that. So that's the reason I have not written over here. We can do with the update student. We can make it, this name is update student, and here request is there. So now we can copy from the find object, here now. Okay, so we can find from the request.id. Okay, if it is object is found, then we do it something. If not found, then we return as a bad request with the 400 status code. Now there is a couple of things we can use, like automapper or the mapster for this assigning this object, but here we do the manual stuff, like student dot name is something like request dot name. Others are student dot age is request dot age, student dot city request dot city. Okay, so here we add, and we're going to be return a list of all students. Okay, so now let's see, is there any swagger level? Here we have the put with the update student, so let's check that the input is something like request body and the output is something like, so let's try it something like we have the first number, so we can going to check the first and make it the string 00. So let's execute and see. Okay, so now first is going to, earlier it was culpes, now it's 1 and 00, so it's changed, right? Now if there are the 4 object, if I restart the application, now the default is going to be a 2 object. Okay, so let's check that. Now we run this get all and try. Now you can see the 2 objects only. So now we can update it again with the first ID. That ID is the first. So now I'm making the, instead of culpes, here is a culpes 1. Okay, and just execute. Now you can see the earlier the request all, we have the first ID with the culpes. Now we have first ID with the culpes 1, and age and city is default value. Okay, the string and 0 we passed it. So that means update is working. Now the last one is the delete. We check that get http post. Now http put is also done. Now http delete. So let's copy and make it the http delete. So here is delete student. Okay, so here we can pass ID or object, either one of them. So here I can put this ID, like integer ID. Now we can, not needed, the student is there. If it is exist, we need this, right? If it is exist, then we can do the perform, otherwise we can return as a bad request. So let's check from the student, I can remove, and we can return all the students. Okay, so now let's check that it's refreshed or not. Yeah, it's going to be refreshed. Okay, now we can see the delete is there. So let's check. First we can check this or get all, student all, and we'll see how many are there. We have 2 objects, 1 and 2, right? 1 with the culpes 1, 2 with the Ajay. So we can delete the first one here. We can try it out. We can pass the 1 ID and it's delete. So now we have only 2 with the Ajay. So if we pass something which is not exist, like 3 or 4, and we'll check what happened. Okay, it's give this no student found. That means 400 error, right? So now you can see that we have this use the all insert update delete with this, like delete with the http delete, get with the http get, post with the http post, and update with the http put. So hope you understand the the web API concept with the CRUD operation using this Swagger. So in the next video, we are trying to cover that the entity framework, where we are going to be store information in the database instead of the static variable. So please stay tuned with my channel, and I will going to be create a new blog for the CRUD operation with the entity framework using this database. Okay, thank you guys. Hope you like this video. Please subscribe my channel and please share with your friends, and please like my videos. Thank you guys.